Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I took a trip over to Alcatraz prison, which you can tour now, yesterday, and I thought I'd do a video about a topic that's sort of related. As I was thinking about it when I was there, I didn't do the video there because I realized I don't have to do it there. I can take some video and then I've got an editor now and he can edit this together. So we'll see how nicely and beautifully this comes out. But anyway, if you're not familiar, Alcatraz is a pretty famous prison in the United States. It was in operation for, I think, 30 years or so. Anyway, like Al Capone was there and a few other kind of famous criminals. It was known as the prison that couldn't be escaped from. But actually, 5 people did escape from it, or technically they did. We don't know for sure if they survived afterwards. But anyway, as I was going through there, it's really interesting to go into a prison like that, and I realized there's actually this really interesting exhibit there, and you'll see some clips here. But essentially, the exhibit was all of these sort of geriatric or aging criminals that were in prison system, not in Alcatraz. Alcatraz isn't in operation anymore, but they're in prison. And they're telling their stories, or they interviewed them. They had these pictures of them, and they a lot of them were telling about like either what happened to them or how they wanted to get out of prison and all this. And one reoccurring theme for most of the prisoners in there was a lack of taking responsibility in their situation, in their lives, blaming someone else, blaming the situation, blaming the justice system. And in some cases, they might have been correct, right? Maybe they were misjudged and wrongly accused, or whatever it was, or that their sentence was too severe or strong. Maybe that's the case. I'm not saying I don't know, right? But I do know that their attitudes were ones of not taking responsibility. And this really made me think about, one of the things that's real interesting is that prisoners typically that go to jail, right? Let's put it this way, right? It's not, I don't think that it is the case that people in prison learn from being in prison to not take responsibility. I don't think it's committing a crime and going to prison that causes you to not take responsibility. I think it's not taking responsibility that causes you to go to prison. And so, and this is true in your life in general, right? So the less responsibility that you are willing to take in your life, for the things that happen in your life, the less freedom you will have. And to some point, if you are willing to take so little responsibility, you will probably inevitably end up in physical prison, in jail. And this might seem extreme, but this is extremely true in your life. And I'll give you some examples and some reasoning for this. So for example, if you refuse to take just simple responsibility in your life for things that happen to you on a daily basis, you will put yourself into a mental prison. And the reason why you'll be in a mental prison is because whatever you do not take responsibility for, you will not have control over. And if you give away your control, then what is that like? That is like prison, right? You don't have the ability to change your life, and you don't have the ability to control your life, so it becomes a prison. And that will apply at the physical level eventually. And so it's real interesting just to see these inmates and their mentalities. And a lot of them probably would have gotten parole had they had the mentality, had they taken responsibility for their situation. Not necessarily, if you didn't commit a crime and you went to jail, what can you take responsibility for? Well, that's the question you have to ask yourself, right? Because we're all in situations where we've been, quote, treated unfairly. We can interpret anything as being treated unfairly, right? From good situations to bad situations. Sometimes we're treated unfairly for the good. How many times have you done something that you should have been punished for and you got away with it, right? Or you should have had some kind of negative consequence, but you actually had a good consequence instead. Or you did something stupid and you got rewarded for it, right? We don't really complain about those, but anytime we do something good and we get slapped for it or we don't get rewarded for it, we complain about that. But you can ask yourself in any situation, what kind of responsibility can I take for this? Whether or not, if you're a criminal, for example, in that case, whether or not you committed the crime, are you responsible for being in this situation, for living the kind of life, or being in the vicinity, or having the kind of friends, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you could choose to take responsibility for, and you as an individual, have to choose to take responsibility, knowing that the only way to gain control of your life is to take responsibility, and the amount of happiness, which is directly related to the amount of control that you have in your life, is related to responsibility. In fact, a really good author that's written some really good books, Brian Tracy, in his book, I actually got some of these concepts from that, is called Maximum Achievement. You can get the book here. He talks about this idea of responsibility. There's a chapter in there. But I was really, it just pressed upon me as I was going through Alcatraz and seeing this exhibit that they had with these prisoners, just this idea. And, so many of us create prisons for our mind because we're not willing to take responsibility. So I do want to leave you with some action that you can take here, because maybe you're not taking responsibility for your life and you want to figure out how can you do this. Well, so the thing that you can do is, first of all, realize your power to interpret any situation as you choose, right? Things are not good or bad, but thinking makes it so, as Shakespeare says, right? So you can choose, when something happens to you, to interpret it in multiple ways. You could say, oh man, I got in this person, I got in a car accident, they hit me, and it's their fault, and they screwed up, and look at all this crap that happened to me, right? And oh, poor me, victim. Or you can say, I maybe could have avoided that situation. I could have known better. Maybe I could have had better insurance, or I can take responsibility for what's going to happen next. I can take responsibility for how I interpret this situation. Maybe I can choose that what this bad thing that happened, I can interpret it as a good thing, and I can say, well, at least I didn't get injured. At least, I didn't get killed. At least that, I am able to afford to pay for this damage, right? You can be thankful, you can be grateful, you can choose this as an exercise, and look at this, at least I got this test to test. I was just studying how to control my emotion, my temper, my anger, and I got this test, and I got a chance to pass it, and I did. Awesome, right? It's all up to you. It's all in here. You can decide how to interpret things, and if you can interpret things in such a way that you take responsibility as much as possible for what happens to you, and 100% for how you react and how you choose to interpret those situations, then you're going to gain control over your life, and that is going to give you more freedom, and that freedom is going to show in many ways. So the level of freedom that you want to experience in life is directly attributable to the amount of responsibility that you're willing to take. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed some of these pictures from Alcatraz. It was a pretty cool trip. Definitely recommend checking it out sometime if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And yeah, so let me know what you think about this. If you want to leave a comment below, if you want some accountability, talk about how something in your life that you have blamed, a story that you've told yourself perhaps, and that you're going to start taking responsibility for. And if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Talk to you later. Take care.